Man, it really is crazy how quick narratives can change. Like a child having the worst day of their life until they get ice cream. Now it's the best day of their life. Or like Friends being looked at as the best sitcom until The Office came out. Ain't so hot anymore, are ya? Well, now after an offseason for the Red Sox that a lot of people looked at as a disappointment, that narrative has completely flipped after the decision Alex Bregman just decided to make. After 84 years of not making a decision, Bregman finally chooses a landing spot. It's Boston, and a lot of people are going to be picking the Red Sox to win the division now. I'm not saying that I'm saying that, I'm just saying that other people who say things might be saying that. But the reason this Alex Bregman news is so big goes beyond just the fact that it's simply Alex Bregman, a good baseball player who's done very well throughout his career and won a whole lot with the Astros. That's important, obviously, but it's also the specifics on exactly the terms the Red Sox just got Bregman on, terms that make it that much better of a deal. Really quick as always, if you're part of the 51% of viewers not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button if you enjoy the videos, as if one thing hadn't become clear enough with Alex Bregman and what he wanted for a contract, I mean, it's the same thing with Pete Alonso. He and Boris wanted a long-term contract. Bregman wanted 6 or 7 years, but even though he did get offered that by the Astros, the money wasn't where he and Boris wanted it to be. And when the Astros signed Christian Walker and traded Kyle Tucker in exchange for Isaac Paredes, a third baseman, which is, the position Bregman's been his whole career, that was what we all thought an official goodbye to Bregman from Houston. But no, apparently their offer was never taken off the table. But even when the two sides went back into talks a couple months later, still nothing was close because Bregman still didn't want to take that offer. It was the same one. And the Astros having a hard time retaining one of their homegrown core guys isn't anything new. It happened with George Springer, it happened with Carlos Correa. So the thought of Bregman no longer being an Astro was never the craziest thing, even if it is a little weird naturally because he's only ever been an Astro. The Blue Jays were apparently never in on Bregman, at least not seriously enough, so it really came down between the Red Sox and Tigers in the end, which is strange because we're about a week removed from Jeff Passan, I would say baseball's most credible reporter, one of the most credible people in sports. We're not that far removed from him saying Bregman to the Red Sox is unlikely, like 1%. That's what he and others were saying. So if it really came down between the Sox and Tigers, why would the Tigers by this logic have 99% of the probability? That doesn't make sense, obviously, and in the end I think it just shows sometimes those things are weird and nobody truly knows what's going on. And you know what, maybe Bregman to the Red Sox really was that unlikely a week ago or 2 weeks ago or most of the ago, but when a player has gone months without signing, so much changes and it changes fast. So what was true a week ago could be the total opposite now, and that seems the way it went with Bregman. I think the most interesting thing is the fact that if Bregman really wanted to stay in Houston, he would have. The offer was never taken away as far as we know. So I don't know, I just find it interesting and how disinterested he seemed in ever signing back to the place where he's always been, where he's won championships and made a name for himself. I mean, he had a long-term deal on the table and just was not at all interested in taking that. And that's also why, although this ended up similarly to his fellow Boris client, Pete Alonso, the difference between the two is Bregman had multiple longer-term deals on the table. Alonso, I don't even think had one. So Alonso had no other choice, but for Bregman, he had no interest in taking the Astros offer. Then you look at Detroit's offer, and like I said, Bregman and Boris seemed very adamant on a 6 or 7 year contract, and well, the Tigers offered him a 6-year deal worth $171.5 million. But according to other reports, Bregman wanted to go to Boston, and so he took their short-term offer, which is where we get into how great this is for both parties, Bregman himself, but also the Red Sox. The deal is for 3 years and $120 million with deferrals, which must be a typo because the Dodgers are, of course, the only team allowed to do that. Silly reporters, they forgot baseball is unfair and only certain rules apply to the Dodgers, and everyone else is screwed. But anyway, $40 million is a lot of money per year, but it's not an overpay because at the very most you have Bregman for 3 years. It's not any sort of crazy commitment, and there are also opt-outs after each year. The Cubs, by the way, they were that other team that seemed to have somewhat of a shot. Well, they offered Bregman the same amount of money at $120 million, except for 4 years, not 3. So he chooses Boston, and for Bregman as a player, this is perfect for him, honestly. He gets a guarantee of $120 million over 3 years if he decides to stay all 3 years. That's a lot for that amount of years, but he also gets the freedom to leave after any of the 3 years while making $40 million each of those years. Fenway Park is a place Bregman absolutely rakes in. His career OPS there is over 1,200 compared to Detroit's more non-hitter friendly ballpark, where his career OPS is 500 points below that. So he can go out and rake this year, make $40 million in the process, and if he's good enough, goes back out on the market and gets a longer deal either with Boston again or wherever. and he trusts in this plan way more than taking $171.5 million over 6 years with Detroit. And I think that's smart. This also really changes the outlook on the Red Sox heading into the season. Like I said earlier, a lot of people were looking at Boston's offseason as underwhelming, and for me, I didn't look at it that way. They didn't get Soto, which is tough, even though realistically they were never in on him as much as the Mets or Yankees or Blue Jays, but overall, you don't need to spend money just to spend money. You can't just give out big contracts to anyone because it makes fans feel better. No, it has to be smart contracts. So I was never in favor of the Red Sox signing Bregman for 6 or 7 years because that's dumb. That's reckless. They have such a crowded infield, no need to potentially hurt your future on someone who's about to enter his age 31 season. But signing Bregman for 3 years? That was always something I'd be down for. It's why I thought the Sox should get Arenado. He has 3 years on his contract. It's not a crazy commitment. And the Red Sox, smartly, were not budging in their offer to Bregman. They didn't want to go more than 3 years, period. That was it. And, well, they ended up getting him for 3 years. It's perfect. So shout out to the general manager, Craig Breslow. He got the job done. They got the deal they wanted. Alex Cora is ecstatic right now. He really wanted Bregman. And there were even reports he and Sam Kennedy, the president of the team, were pressuring Craig Breslow and getting Bregman. So everyone wins now. Everyone's happy. The owner of the Red Sox, John Henry, right when the news dropped, this was him. His wife posted this photo on her Instagram. A pic so hard I had to use it for the thumbnail. I mean, all of this is making noise. Noise on the streets that the Red Sox may be back. Time will tell, but they've undoubtedly just officially finished off a very productive offseason. I think at this point, everyone can agree on that no matter what. Now, the Red Sox already had a very crowded infield heading into the season. Alex Bregman is another infielder, and he's also reportedly expected to play second base. The Red Sox also have a guy named Christian Campbell, one of the top prospects, not on just the Red Sox, in all of baseball, and he's expected to break camp with the team. His potential is through the roof, and he plays second. They also have Trevor Story at short, Rafael Devers at third base, obviously Tristan Casas at first base, but also 3 other guys to add to that. David Hamilton, Vaughn Grissom, who they traded Chris Sale for, and Romy Gonzalez. Now add Bregman. That's 8 infielders. Oh, well, you can just move one of them to the outfield. Well, okay, yeah, the outfield that's also crowded with Duran, Yoshida, Wilyer Abreu, who put up a great rookie year, Cedon Rafaela, and the #1 hitting prospect in baseball, Roman Anthony. Yeah, just add it to an outfield with 5 guys already. Obviously, this is a great problem to have. You can't really complain too much about that. They have a lot of good players. Same with the pitching. There's a lot of potential there. But I'm just saying it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out because there are a lot of players here. But this is also a reason why when I look at this current Red Sox roster about how deep it is with talent, what about the Orioles or Yankees is better overall? Tell me, seriously, in the comments, what about those 2 teams, if you think, or anyone in the American League East is objectively better than the way Boston's built? I'm not saying the Red Sox are objectively the best team in that division right now because, you know, we kind of have the season to play. But what I am saying is that there's nothing setting them behind those teams. The way it looks right now, especially with the addition of Alex Bregman, the Red Sox look really strong heading into the season. And it's also a very funny roster because you have Alex Bregman joining a team that also just signed Aroldis Chapman and Walker Buehler. If you told me back in 2019 that Astros star Alex Bregman, Dodgers ace Walker Buehler, and Yankees closer Aroldis Chapman would all be teammates on the Red Sox at some point, I would have had the same reaction as if you told me Madea movies aren't good. That's my way of saying I wouldn't have taken you seriously. Yet here we are, Madea movies are good, great actually, and Alex Bregman is on the Boston Red Sox joining forces with Walker Buehler and Aroldis Chapman on a contract that works for everyone.
Hallelujah! 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 Thank God.
Let me know your thoughts and thank you for watching.